helpful.
Okay, so you guys are aware of your own capital projects configurations then, is that what you're telling me? You pretty much know all that there is for your capital projects stuff?
I wouldn't even say that, Stephanie. I mean,
Okay,
since nobody on this call, and Ann should be on here in a second, by the way.
okay,
Nobody here was here for the initial build out, so we
okay,
don't have all of the history. I don't
okay.
even. When did you get on to this and start working with the CP stuff yourself?
Okay, so I think we were probably 2/3 through the project when Kate Ball left the company. And then I had been involved with consulting with her because she was defined as the actual project team application consultant for capital projects because they gave me facility condition assessment. Um, because I think that she didn't have the wheelhouse outside of capital projects too much. So that was kind of like where she was the best at. So
Mhm.
anyway, she got the assignment initially. And I even want to say when the project kicked off, we had a different application consultant. Her name was Kim Vickery, and she also had parted, but she left, I think maybe a third of the way through the project. So as you know, I think the implementation phase took about 2.5 years to get everything put together and ready to go, big bang and all that good stuff. So it was pretty lengthy process. And through that, we had a couple people depart. So I was through the entire process with you guys as kind of a secondary consultant without being the lead on it. I had very little involvement. Once Kim Vickery left, I was in it to win it, let's say, pretty heavy. So I'm pretty aware of all the changes that took place. Kate Ball did work with Frank on the heavy configurations back when they were going through the accounting stuff.
Mhm.
That was a huge undertaking, I'm sure you're aware of.
Yep.
And
Yep.
Frank did the major, I think, consulting, and him and Kate together came up with the design you have now for billing and all that good stuff. So I think Frank was the mastermind though behind billing and how it all came to be.
Yep.
Um, and then with my taking on the major design was there, I think, and Frank was just doing some fine tuning with billing through my part of the end of that. And then we were getting into data toward the end and data loading, and we had all that. So obviously the big component that is capital projects and the tie-in with that is billing. And so this is 100% non out of the box. You guys are trendsetters on the whole billing billing component, as far as being able to take the chart field string where we actually brought those chart strings in, and you guys create them here if you don't have one for the project. As
Mhm.
you can see, the project ID gets tied in here within your chart
If you're
strings.
if you intend to be sharing, you're not right
Oh,
now. At least I'm not seeing that.
shoot. You're right. I'm not. I'm so sorry. Okay,
No
so I
sweat.
navigated to billing, and this whole module here or node is 100% custom. And maybe accounts payable is not, maybe it was just moved to here. But the billing node, utility billing, these are all specific to human bill, 100%. So in this dashboard for billing is everything that your team requires for different aspects of billing and things that they do in their activities. Colleen, you probably have been more involved even in this than I have been to know a little bit more in the weeds on the processes, but you can run your billing batches through here for the different locations. And this does tie in with things that are capital projects. And so you've got invoice batches here related to capital projects, and then the chart string setup is here. And like I said, that project number that you're going to see tie in at your funding source level and your project level, they get created out here, defined, and this project component does carry the project ID in it and the year if I recall correctly, is part of the breakdown, and
Yep.
oh, I can't
Yeah.
remember the other component, but you know what there's
There's
components
there's
that
a
make
bill-
up that ID. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
building number and a year, a fiscal year, and a kind of a randomized
Exactly.
number from there. So it's a mashup.
Yes. And then it gets concatenated together to make up your chart string. And so the components are within this record, and then they get concatenated. And this account number does play a role as well.
Oh.
When you guys are billing things out, you do have the flexibility to select the account number and that. So to start things off, within capital projects under your funding sources, obviously we have a one-to-one design on this. Normally a funding source can fund, which I can't say it doesn't fund multiple projects, but because it can, but typically because it ties in with a project, it is a one-to-one. So if it's, and what you guys are doing is you're creating a funding source for a project specific, but it could actually, like the parking and transportation name may be across multiple projects, but the actual chart string is specific to a project, and that's where the difference comes in. So you have pool projects where the accounting team is bringing and tying all of those codes together so that they can total some things out. It's my understanding of what a pool project is used for and how it tracks things. But the funding sources in a project, they can have multiple funding sources in a project, obviously. And we developed on a non out of the box scenario, right? You have a custom tab here for cost accounting, which is where Frank tied in all billing instances to be able to have visibility to those billing headers. So anywhere that you have those billing headers tying in with a record, you're going to see this tab. It's a quote unquote global tab, kind of like your notes and documents are. And this is specific to your build out here.
So that tab
And
doesn't exist anywhere else but our build. Is that what you're saying?
that is correct.
Okay.
That's specific to human. And then in here for accounting, this is also human specific. This is nothing we have anywhere else. So these two tabs are specific to you guys. And then this whole entire structure build out, which is part of the cost code validation, you're picking a profile ID, which I think it always defaults to this in most cases. And then if you needed to, you can select a different one. And this project code list, what this does is in the code matrix report for this specific profile, it would display, if we had the cost codes, it would display everything here that was built out for the code matrix underneath it. This particular project I'm looking at may not have anything built out. Let's see if they have a budget. No. So I picked a bad project to show this on. Let's see if we have one with money. This one here. Probably give you a better representation. Yeah. So like all of this build is all 100% specific to you guys. And this is a perfect example of where you have your funding source, right? And you select the default, which by default, the first one will always be allocated, but you can change the default code. So when you start doing invoicing and procurement against your projects, then it'll reach back in here for any work tasks that are affiliated to it, or when PEAs or any of those types of records get charged against this project, it's going to first pick the default chart string. But then when it comes to billing those items out later on, you guys can always do those. I think you have reversals on work tasks where you can take and reverse them out if you needed to change them. Or in invoicing, your accounting team can swap out the chart string if they need to when it comes time to bill it out. Say the money ran out on one of the chart strings and they need to bill to the next funding source. Then that gave them the flexibility to be able to change that stuff. And that's stuff that I think came later on after, you know, some conversations with Frank and the build got a little bit more intense. But it's pretty deep in the weeds for accounting, and quite honestly, for your audience might be a little bit more than they bargained for. So if you kept it high level, probably better, right? Because
Yeah, I mean, I think the important points are the funding. We have funding sources and we have charge accounts that we
right.
uh, customized and define, and they have different
Yes.
rules around them.
And then the greatest thing that you guys offered yourselves by doing that is on the funding source record itself. We did add some configurations here for you to get your funds expended, what your project fund balance actually is across, the projects. So it totals up if you had this funding source used on other projects, then it would total across the projects here, for those fund balances, if it was utilized across multiple. Because we try to keep it one-to-one with this tie-in with the project, I don't believe that you would ever see it be more than what's on the project itself. So it is giving you those one-to-one totals. And in your project reporting, that's why this becomes so critical, because it is tied to a specific project. And it is giving you the totals across the project, from the invoicing of what actually had been expended on the project versus what you allocated. Hey, we allocated this much, but we really only spent this much. And it gives you that visibility to that. And it makes sure that you're not exceeding what you allocated. And this is not something out of the box. You don't get that. So anyway,
Great.
through the years, we've also, I think, done some modifications in the internal account area here, because this used to have other details, but now I think it's become more isolated to the actual organization potentially, or it says campus here of where this is going on at. So this has evolved. This section has a little bit over time. I'm just trying to see if there's anything else important to point out on the funding source, because these are all, people would probably just be like, oh my gosh, you guys did this.
Yeah,
This is a cool, and it's a very good thing that you did with that. And then this default budget code and how, the workflows come back and validate that it's a valid chart string and that you're actually billing to things correctly is another big point to make, from the perspective of procurement. Yeah, we don't have any invoices here to kind of show that tie-in. So let's see if there's invoice amount anywhere. This one has one. Yeah, so right now all we have is the project expense adjustments, but as you can tell here, PEAs are a way for you guys to have the amount be accounted for in regards to your projects, and it shows you what work task was, bringing the expense on the project. This is all custom configuration here. On the work task, there's a lot of configurations to incorporate your chart string. The ability to tie in your project is here. Any contract that's an internal contract where you got, engineering services being charged to the project, you're accounting for that work. And then in the section up here, there's also a way for you to track, what's been billed to date against a contract, excuse me, the costs and billed to date, what you have available. So it's keeping track of all of that here. And this is not something that necessarily comes with the standard functionality, especially along this side of the row. Because, you've got billing suspended here. It won't allow this to bill out if the money's not available. And it allows the team from capital projects to go in and assess whether or not they need to add a change order for the work.
Which was a pretty, I don't know how big of an enhancement it was from a nuts and bolts development perspective, but from a process and program perspective, that was a big deal for us to have that functionality and have it suspend that way. So that'll be something we'll want to point out in the presentation. And it's sort of an internal process thing, kind of peculiar to us based on the way we do business here. I don't know if other orgs do the same sort of internal billing and have the same sort of issues, probably. But
And within your, we haven't gotten to the contract aspect, but I'm kind of going just in the order of the accounting process for
Sure.
the project and how it kind of ties into different things. From the point of the standard contracts, when you guys submit these and say that it's the project manager that's sending this over because it's an internal contract and we designate it by sending it over to the ISA supervisor, they have the ability to decide whether or not that they want that supervisor to, review it and say, yes, we approve of this amount of money. We think that's what it's going to take, or we might need this much more. They can pass it back to the project manager. There is some flexibility in we didn't necessarily call it an approval routing, but there's some flexibility where they can submit it over to the supervisor to get those initial things passed back and forth, and on their dashboards, they'll be able to see this stuff. And so I don't know if the team is using that, but it is something that was built out for them to be able to do that without having to go and get out of their chair and go talk to them. There is functionality there for them to be able to do that, pass back and forth. But yeah, so even if they don't have enough funds, obviously they can create change orders and they can do all that stuff. And they would not generate, obviously, pay apps with an internal contract, but they would with an external. So that's another conversation. That's 100% custom built. But back to this stuff. So you can see on the work task that cost allocation tab lives here. And it shows up here. And it shows this billing instance for the work task. And because it's tied to the project, you would see the same voucher in the project, this 1757. If we look back on our project, let me come back. If you come back to the cost accounting tab here, 1757 is associated in the project. So anything that, is billed on this project, it will show up on the record itself, and then also back to the project for the reference. 100% full circle should always show up here if it's in the project being billed.
And if you what do you call it, extrapolate that, or not extrapolate, press the plus button on there, you can see the billing headers and all the stuff that goes along with those.
Yes, so if we expand that out,
yeah, just for billing wise, you can see that, yes, there's more than one chart string on this project that's funding it, etc.
Yep.
They'll split them all the time and blah, blah, blah.
Yes, this might be a good project, or you guys might have a really good one that's got a lot of different lines, but it would be a representation of showing how they've allocated. You guys have allocated the default, so this is the one that's currently going to be selected for billing, but, it could be changed out or whatever. So this is a huge configuration short story. Cost accounting is a pretty significant configuration. I'm going to go back to the general tab now, and let's just talk about the project record itself. There were some significant configurations here on the project record. Standard functionality there. I want to say there is a drop down that allows you to pick the kind of project that's a drop down, and I think it's down here, project type here.
Yeah.
I think that's a standard field, but there's a lot of these that are not standard fields. Okay, this is pretty configured here. And then the project number, we have logic that is concatenating the location ID, the year of the project here, the last four of the ID of the project. So it puts together this nice project number. And then if you guys change it, the former project will display here.
That's
For
right.
any reason. Yeah. So
Yeah, and when that happens, because you think, why would you ever change the project ID? It usually happens based on the location. So if you scroll down, there's a location for the project, and a lot of times they'll start out and they won't know. So this one is a good example. It says GBN, like generic business, or sorry, generic building. But then let's say the building is created and they say, oh, this is our new stadium, and they actually create it in the space module, they create it over here, and we would then add this one to it because you want to say, well, let's look at all the projects that are on the new stadium.
Yeah.
Then that project ID up top would change to to include the new building number, and then that old one would sit underneath. And there's tons of them out there that have like 5 underneath it. You're like, how is
go.
this changing so many times? But
Yeah. But it gives you that visibility and you have a way of tracking the changes. And so it maintains that, I think, in a comma delimiter, comma spaced out list of project numbers. So you always have that in your visibility in your line of sight. There's also, you guys decided after a lot of deliberation that you wanted to just keep your project documents in Box. I think you decided that it wasn't as feasible within the application, which was fine. So now there was this link placed here. So you guys have a direct tie to be able to just shoot over to your project documents in Box if you want to.
Yep.
So that's, like I said, this is a pretty heavily configured area, but it gives you a lot of good information. And then manually, you can update your overall project health score. It color codes things. And from a bird's eye view, you know, you can see if some of the things are in jeopardy based on the, you know, the schedule that's been laid out and what's going on maybe within the budget. And so it can be deemed red, yellow, or green. And, you know, that's just a quick color representation that can be manually updated. I think that there's also a form, which I'm not sure if your team is using in the project container, that drives some of this functionality too, or at some point, because Kate was handling that one, I'm not clear anymore if it's designed to still update this area or if this is all just manual and you abandoned that form. And either way, I think the design was meant to kind of work independently of one another. If they wanted to use the form and update it, it would, but if they didn't, they could do it manually. So anyway. Now within this area, because of associated objects, there were some decisions made to just create this section for project reporting purposes. And it gave you guys a little bit more flexibility and cleaner reports to just manually input some information so that when you ran reports, you would have these available and not have to go to associated objects to get them. So that is, that's all custom for you. And I'm looking to see if there's anything else. A lot of this other stuff is standard information like site, you know, the address details, all that's pretty standard. The scope, I don't think you guys modified this too much. We did add project initiation requests because there is an association to a project. This ties in here as well. Just to kind of go over that, that was 100% custom form. Yep. For your team to be able to put down the details of the project, you know, does it have ties into real estate lease? How about space? You know, if you wanted to bring in any of the deficiencies here when it's in revision, obviously there's a way to do that tie-in. And you can put in, hey, we're going to do all of the organization information and who's the facility lead on the funding that you might be using for the project, what your projected costs are, you know, just to see if this is going to get through the initial, yes, we'll do it, no, we're not. And there's another section that will open up actually down here too, I believe, that you can add additional information on if it fits some of these, how it's funded criteria, and that there's more if you had.
Remind me on this, Stephanie, is there any out of the box project initiation request form at all, or is this 100% from scratch?
So the funding request is the out of the box project request. It's
Gotcha.
Just not named the same. Could we have utilized that? We could, but there was some discussions with Andrew Chan at the time.
Yep.
And he wasn't sure if he wanted to go out of the box in some cases, or if so we did some modifications on the out of the box form that were very minor to ensure that it worked if they wanted to utilize that form. But ultimately, the decision was made to use this because obviously it was more human specific, had a lot more of the details. Not to say we couldn't have added them to the other one, but this was the path that was decided on. So,
And this one is, I hear you saying the funding request is out of the box and can be tweaked and was tweaked to some degree. This one is 100% out of the, or 100% custom though.
yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is. I want to say that I still used a request form to start it from, just so that we could capitalize on some standard functionality.
Mhm.
Because I was part of the design behind this one, so I want to say I tried to make our lives as easy as possible with this. So we stemmed it from the request module, if you will,
Mhm.
to not 100% recreate the wheel, but we yeah, this is all a custom form, custom VO, all that good stuff, I think.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And then the real estate leases, obviously, real estate lease is not customized too much, but there are tie-ins and they are noted in the project initiation requests typically. So if there is a tie-in with lease, you can associate the lease here. It doesn't affect any financials on the project. It just allows them to say there is a tie to a lease. And that's pretty much all it does. And I want to say we did some configurations around this so that your team could also do some building impact area calculations and play with the numbers to see if there were impacts to spaces within buildings and different space classes. You could get some cost per square foot if you wanted to see that detail. So that's what this section does. And this is configured as well.
Okay. That's good to know.
Yep. I don't need to be on that one, so don't worry. This is the schedule tab. I want to say we did not configure anything here. Maybe added this work task cost, but it could have been here. I'm not positive. I'd have to compare it to the standard to see. Critical path task. I don't know if you guys really use any of these things, but the
Not
dependencies.
really, no.
Yeah. If you had dependencies between tasks, it would show up here.
I mean, typically our project managers are using MS Project or something on the side for this sort of planning,
Gotcha.
Gantt charts and such. So
Yep. Cool. But this is all pretty standard functionality. This doesn't look any different to me. The budget, there are some things that were added in here to account for, retainage remaining.
The commitments over on the left, we added stuff.
Yeah. The current contract commitment, I think that's always been there, but we added non-contract commitments, the PEA breakout and the
H.
F and V. I'm wondering if this one, yeah, this is custom because it brings in the PEA total. Maybe we had to relabel because I think that might have already been. And out of the box, we might have just relabeled it so it looked, it added the two together. Maybe it had to be re-summed. So yeah,
let me ask a dumb question. Where is V here?
I'm sorry.
Where is V? If we're adding V here, where is V?
V's here.
Yeah, that one is.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, those are the PEAs that aren't necessarily like a work task. That would be like a contract. So a non-contract PEA would be like an accounting adjustment. And so if they're not tied to a contract, they wouldn't be pulled into that F figure above that current contract commitment. So there was just like money that was kind of not accounted for here.
Yeah.
They always wanted to know like how much do we have left, which is H. So that's where the PEA came in.
Yeah. So yes. And then this section here, I think was expanded upon maybe a little bit with alternate risks. I'd have to look at the out of the box. They may have just had risk total and that's it. And maybe we broke them out by type, because this section isn't, I want to say is an out of the box section. I can't remember for sure, but we added some columns to it and stuff. And I don't think it was above the funding allocations. I think it was lower on the form. And then this just has the project budget stuff here. And it looks like you guys took like, well, maybe they all show up in the same section, like budget changes and that.
They do, yeah. Like if you press add, you'll see the 4 down there.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. And then procurement, this is where all the contract stuff is. We did modify these to only show the things that Human uses within capital projects, because it used to also include like purchase orders and things like that. And we don't use the purchase order in the projects. We only use standard contracts. So we removed some things that you guys didn't use. That's pretty much streamlining this area. And then we added the project expense adjustment section. You don't
makes
use
sense.
cash. Yeah. You don't use cash flow. Contacts are in the contacts. You do use those. It's standard though. You might have added the org field. I can't remember. If anything, it might have been one extra field or something that is in there. The closeout tab, this one's kind of interesting because standard functionality, the checklists are kind of weird. I don't think we messed with any of this stuff. If we did, it's been a long time ago and I don't remember what we modified, honestly. I don't think we modified anything, and I don't think you guys were using submittals or punch lists or anything like that, but we did ensure that they were working correctly, because back at the time we implemented, there were problems with the line items in punch lists and in submittal tasks. We had out of the box bug. They would like duplicate lines and it would create lines every time, like for the line that was there, it would create another one and then it would create the new line, and it was like duplicating lines, and it was kind of it was a bug in the standard functionality, and we reported it to IBM and they have fixed it since then. But I think we fixed it for you guys because we needed it working. During implementation time, we did that. Okay, so the group access, obviously this is security. This stuff gets set up, I think, in your template. This is standard functionality, nothing new here. Notifications are for your approval processes, and this is all standard, I don't believe, except for the exception of, well, there are some things I think that are configured within the approval process for how it seeks out how to route things, but I think most of it is standard functionality. But there are some checks for routing contract related objects, and there are some custom configurations for routing your project requests. Those have a custom routing as well.
Yeah, but that's using the out of the box tools for building those routing configurations, I assume. So
It is more of
not
I
really.
shouldn't probably say custom, but it's
Yeah.
specific to humans, so they're configured to work the way you need them to work for you guys.
Got
And then you have an area here where comments, related documents. The related documents for a project, we did add some logic that was putting in a structure for the PEA specifically. We were trying to house all of your project documents within a folder structure that was going to work for you guys on the initial implementation side of things. And so anytime the PEA inbounds, and you have PEAs related to the project, they would show up within the project documents section here, and under contracts, under,
I think you mean pay app.
thank you. Did I say something? I said PEA.
You said PEA,
You're right.
yeah.
You are so right, Ann. Pay app, sorry. It comes back in and it aligns to the payment application folder here under the structure. But from the other standpoint, I don't know if you guys are really using the structure for anything else, because you
No,
guys are
we're not.
using, yeah, you use box, so,
Yep.
yeah. I don't hear you, Ann.
Yeah,
lost
can't hear you, and I don't know what happened. You were,
It just cut out.
we were hearing you, well, now we don't. No dice.
No,
Okay, I'm back. All right.
There you
Anyway,
are.
sorry, I don't know what happened. Yes, I was gonna say exactly what you're saying is right, but the payment application, all their backup and stuff sits in its own box folder, but I do know a copy goes here. I don't think anybody's ever clicked in there though to get it. Because I think it sits out on the actual pay app forms so they can see it, but maybe that's where it actually lives. I don't know. I just know they're not going through there to get it.
yeah,
It's in a
it
couple
lives in
spots.
both. It lives in both places. It lives on the pay app
Okay.
and it lives here. Yeah.
Okay,
So at least it should be. If it doesn't,
Yeah.
then that's not necessarily how we designed it. So. Okay, I think that's it. The rest of these tabs are just general admin type tabs, and we don't really do anything else there. So that is the custom stuff. What we can do is pull you into an out of the box now and show you how different it looks. Do you have any other things you want to look at for capital projects, like reports or anything that are available that you guys use in the project container?
I don't think so. I don't think we'll get into that. I don't think we'll get into reports or anything of that nature. And to be perfectly honest, most of the reports we're using, we've either built custom here or in our SAP tool. So I would just say we're generally using custom reporting anyway. So
Okay, okay. Because I think that we've built some stuff out here too, but you guys probably
yes, I know
what
where you're
that
talking,
stuff
that
is.
in the, I think
Yeah.
it's in the budget tab. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was there and I did see these with the external contracts, the WBS codes by contracts, but so it just sums everything nicely here.
mhm.
So you have them, but I
think,
remember
yeah,
there
they
was
use other ones.
there was like a funding source one out here before, and I'm
That's the one. It's up at the top. That's it up at the very top, that funding sheet summary. That's for some reason,
Oh,
that's the
gotcha.
spot they go to. Yeah.
Okay, yep.
Is it real convenient? Probably not, but that's where they go to get that info. And on one where there's tons of them, then they can see how much is left without having to click into each project.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking there was a link, so thank you. It was right in front of my face. My dad always says, if you can't find something, look right in front of your face. That's where it's always going to be. Okay, so then let's go to a demo site. I'll go to the managed services, see how this one's going to work for me today.
Before I forget,
Okay.
do you have a link for an out of the box version you could send us just for looking at stuff?
Yep, I
Cool.
sure do. I can send you the link to this. You might even still have access. I don't know if I've killed your access here or not from the last time you guys had. So I'll look though.
Okay.
So let's just start where we would start, right? A funding request. You guys are pretty straightforward out of the box with the funding request. I just don't think it's there. I think it's going to be under projects. Yeah. So a funding request, we didn't go look at this in the other, but you are not very far away from this. My environment's a little slow. They don't give me a lot of oomph unless they know I'm doing a demo, so I apologize.
No sweat.
So the standard functionality for the funding request is that you would be filling in, is it for a project or is it for a program kind of thing? Where's your funding coming from? And then, or two, you're building, straightforward stuff. And then you can tie in your opportunities down here.
Oh, interesting.
Having a little error down here for my thing, but yeah, so you had the ability to bring in opportunities. I don't think I have a license with this user, and that's probably mine. So it's probably flagging that you can't see these because you don't have the license. But it does have all the ability to bring in you know, the opportunities, give you the line item cost estimates or additional costs that you want to have considered for your project. So there's some stuff here with standard functionality, and then you can tie your funding source in here on the funding tab. So there's definitely similar things, but not exactly what Andrew was looking for. So that's why we went the route we did on the other way. But so that is it's pretty similar to what you would see in your environment. Let's go to view funding sources here. You're going to see a pretty different view, I think, overall here, because you're not going to see any reference to chart field strings. You can see that allocation summary section that I was telling you about, where you guys have all the expenditure details and you have all of that stuff that was on the right-hand side. That's not here. All you have is just your regular summary. This will build out the allocations here once you enter them and you activate this record. And I think create draft of yours, it is programmed to do 10 years automatically because it saved you clicks and time. So on create draft, it would calculate them and create them out, or at least prep it for 10 years. It would automatically populate those fields, and then on activation, it creates them for you guys. So this view looks pretty similar, as you can see. I was telling you about that internal account where you guys are putting that organization, and then you have like a defined thing. I don't think these dates are still present. They might just be not visible on the form, or they moved. I'm not sure which. And this is all, I think, still there on your funding sources. You may have some additional information that's not here, but for the most part, I think it's similar, because this is just normal funding information that would be tracked. As far as the summary goes, I think that this is pretty similar for you guys as well. You would have the same report available if it comes up. Or you chose to hide it. I can't remember if it's on the form or not. You have the ability to have contacts, same notifications and notes and documents. So like all the other stuff is pretty similar. You may have a custom report over here as well. For Bert, I don't recall if we configured anything or not for you guys related to funding sources, but it's just the summary report for year over year. So that's not the same, as you can tell, because you had all of the expenditure stuff. You had all of the things that are showing your chart field string information. You have details up at the top that define a lot more information about the funding source. So there are some huge differences for you on the funding source itself. And that tie-in with the chart field string is not available. Yours is going to look pretty different to them. And then with the capital project record, you can tell here that with the standard functionality, we get a project phase and we get an ID field, but there's nothing for project number specific to anything, right? We're not concatenating anything. It just takes on the control number, and that's what they get. They can use the drop down for the project type. This is the 2 drop down fields I was telling you that were available, but it doesn't offer anything about, well, it does. They get the phase here, and you can add list values, but they're very basic and straightforward. And this might even, I'm going to be honest, this is a demo environment. I don't know if we added this or values for it, so it made more sense. But I don't recall a project phase being on the standard functionality project, to tell you the truth. They may have added it, but I don't recall it being there. And this is a 11.3 version, and it might be there now. But you have your client section, you have your primary location, your site address, child projects, and reporting, and that's it. So
Yeah, and I see that detail section above doesn't have a whole lot of info in it compared to
No.
all those custom fields that we had added.
yeah, there's a huge
Yeah.
difference here. For sure. You still
Under
do
the-
designate.
I was gonna say, under the more button, is out of the box, does it include all those various templates we apply? Right, like we do. So those type of, oh, it does, okay, so those type of templates, I know, like when we pick a different
When you have a
project
project,
office,
yeah,
if we pick a different project office, then they apply a different template, so it brings in, you know, the type of contacts and the security that they want for that project office. I was just curious if that was something we did custom.
so the
But it
apply
looks like-
template is available. As you can see, there's nothing that would define the project office. So if they were to use this out of the box, they would have had to have put the project office in the name of the template so that
Okay.
they knew what template they were applying. But then,
Okay.
you know, the contacts that would be assigned in the template would be available, the security access would be available. But you know, any other details specific to that office within, like if they set up the schedule to be specific to that office, that's all still available in those budget codes. If you had the budget templates like we do, that's all still available with the standard functionality too. So
Okay,
yeah, you guys are doing those things similar. It's just the name, I think, that defined it. I think you
Okay.
guys, yeah, you guys have the project type, so I don't know if it was carried over to the template or not. As you can see, schedule is same, and like I said, you can set up the schedule in the templates, so that can all be applied if that's how you're carrying that through. The scope, out of the box, you don't see, you know, a section for your project initiation request. This building information section is totally different functionality than what you guys have. It's not the same. It looks the same, but it's not the same.
Hmm.
It doesn't do the same thing. And then on the general tab here, with out of the box, you have a tie-in to the funding request. So if you did do the out of the box funding request, it has an association to the project tied in right here with a link. So you could jump back to it if you wanted to. So it has a tie back, but it doesn't do it the same way that we did for you guys for your project initiation. You guys have a query section, so. From the view of the budget tab, this looks significantly different because obviously we talked a little bit about, you know, you had V in there for your PEA charges, and it does show your funding amount. Over here, there's less fields for your invoice information, and you can see risk is not even on here. So we built all that out. And yeah, risk section is not even available here.
I don't
At
even think
all.
we use risk, that's the
Yeah, I
bummer.
was wondering about that, Ann. It feels like something
Yeah.
we thought might have been a great idea in 2019, but I question whether we use it much at all.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then here's
I don't
your,
think we do.
I'm sorry. Here's your allocation section, but as you can see, there's no ability here to set a default value. None of those tabs are available for your accounting information. So all that's gone. It's all gone. You don't have any ability to set if it's in, what do you call that, Regents approval. We have that ability for you guys to flag that on the project. None of that's available out of the box. So, yeah. And then with procurement, as you can see here, there was a proposal section, a purchase request section, contracts and purchase orders displayed in the same area. Change orders and contracts resided together. And so it's significantly different than what you guys have. And then you don't, they don't have a, you know, project expense adjustment section here. And so they're separated out from contract invoices. And I think we just relabeled the section potentially for you. Contacts look the same. I don't think that's any different. The closeout tab, I would say, is pretty close to being the same. Security is the same, notifications is the same. I don't think we made, like I said, you might, in the context, did I say that the organization? No, it's there. See? So it's exactly the same. You guys are standard. And approvals, same as far as the look and feel here, what displays, and then notes and documents. The only difference is, like I said, you have that project folder component on yours that is not available out of the box for the the project components, and then the rest are just normal admin tabs. So when you dive into some of those other forms, which I didn't go into super great detail in your environment on the contract, but there's a significant difference on contracts that you would notice, because you don't have the ability here in the out of the box to select the type of contract you're going to do. And so there's no template for the cost tab, which this is a huge time saver for you guys, where when you apply that template, it validates against your budget codes, flags it if this is a huge build, and this would be a huge thing for you guys to highlight. But it validates against your budget, tells you if it doesn't have a budget, first of all. If they go in and create a contract without looking to see if the budget's been generated, it'll say you don't have a budget, so you can't do this right now. It'll check against the cost codes and make sure that the cost codes that they're using are even available in the project. If they're not, it'll tell them, but it doesn't stop them from generating the contract. And then, they can create everything and go about their day. But I don't think it will allow them, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, maybe it doesn't even let them create the contract. No, it will. It just flags whether or not they don't have those codes available. It tells them if they don't, so that they can add them. But
Yeah, it doesn't let you, it doesn't let you issue it.
This gives you a stern warning.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we gave some additional visibility to like the amount of the change orders on the contract. I'm not positive of that, but I think there is a little bit more detail for you guys on the contract for your change orders. And we may have on the general tab even added some additional stuff in here, but I don't even know if that's the case. Because I don't think John felt that some of this stuff was needed when we were going through the consulting and stuff. So, but you can cross-check that. It might be pretty close. You'll notice that there's no work task section on the contract here. There's no reference to it being an internal contract versus an external contract. So they're not split out in the contract section on the out of the box form. And so because there's no to this environment, there's no difference. So there was definitely a lot of configuration surrounding the functionality of the standard contract that I think added value to it, it doesn't detract. You know what I mean? I think it's a good value add that you guys put together there. That was a strong build decision. So, and then of course you have the functionality for your payment application, which you guys can talk about that. You know that pretty well. That is not available with the standard functionality. And with an invoice, I think you'll see some differences as well. You have your vendor section just like you guys do. I think you also show a bill too on yours. I think all of that information is included in your invoice. And then on the line items part, I don't know if you see more than you do here. But I do believe there are more components down here being calculated in the invoice history part
Why did I
of
just
the
hit
line. So, yeah, I think that there's a little bit of a difference on this. And then you also have those tabs for the accounting here because, and that might actually be on the overall invoice and not in the line itself. And you wouldn't see that on the invoice here because it's not available. But so yeah, there's some pretty significant differences all related to the billing aspect of capital projects that you guys can cover.
Yeah, and I guess the challenge for me is, or me and us, is to kind of think about what level of detail here. I mean, I get your point from earlier where some of this is just too much for that audience. We have 45 minutes, I think, grand total to cover the presentation questions, so we just don't have a lot of time here. So there's a lot of stuff to choose from here.
Yes. You guys have a lot of things that would be really cool ads for other clients. And I'm sure that other clients have done maybe some similar things to you guys, but you know, that value add for the contracts alone, that one was a huge win for you. And at the time we did pay apps, I think that was a huge win for you. Is that still a time saver in any capacity for you at all?
Well, I think it's a requirement, you know, to have that type of invoice. They're not using it, they're not having the customer email them in like they had originated or, you know, envisioned, I should say, just because it got so complicated. But I mean, they're happy. It works fine now. I mean, they don't really have any. We tweaked some of the approvals and stuff with them and created a couple of different reports that work really well. And yeah, I mean, it works good. It doesn't screw up.
Well, that's good.
I mean, the important thing is we are able to collect the data at the right level of detail that our finance folks require at the university through that method. So not saving to the time. Well, I guess Anna already said it. We're not getting the contractors to do data entry for us as we had hoped, but so be it.
Yes, that is a tough one. I know that the only way that you could potentially enforce it or whatever is if it was part of the contract.
Yeah, and I think there was some fantasy world amongst the people that built this out that we used to have the contractors fill these out all the time in the old system, and I think we've since found out that that wasn't really true. So
right,
because it's just complex. There's just no doubt about it. So
right. Oh, and then on your guys' contract, you also have that payment application section. So I mean, there's a whole nother component there that I didn't go into detail on in our call today, but if you guys want another session and we need to cover those things, you can let me know. But I think Ann's pretty well versed with the pay app process and that, so
yeah, we'll be fine.
So just out of curiosity, how many of your clients actually use capital projects and use it kind of close to out of the box versus us, has a pretty heavily customized version of it and center contracts?
Yeah, every client that has implemented capital projects, I have one that currently is using it pretty close to out of the box, but I haven't dove in really heavy into their implementation yet. And I feel that it's they're pretty green, and I think that they were strictly on paper before, so probably there's going to be some enhancements as they use the application, if you want to know my honest opinion. I haven't really seen a client implement capital projects without changes. Most of my clients that have implemented capital projects have had to make configuration changes. And a lot of them are surrounding like adding line items in a contract and things like that. I love the tool that you guys have.
Is ours more or less or about the same in terms of customizations versus those other clients?
I would say that your configurations surrounding capital projects are very well thought out and they're very good. The accounting is unique to you. We've never done that I'm aware of here for any other clients that I'm working with. I don't have any other clients using that accounting. So yeah, but as far as what their configurations are in other areas, it just depends on what they were trying to do. Like I worked on a client that their focus was on when they were doing real estate that would then, or a project that would turn into real estate, or, using real estate and projects together. And then, oh, we have this building now that came out of it. And so they had a heavy like configuration at that phase of, we're building a building, and then, or, we're going to build this and it's a project, and now it's going to become real estate here. And so then it becomes a real estate lease or whatever. And then, it's like all of this stuff that would transition that way. They had heavy configurations to do those conversions from here's this, and now it's a building, and we had to like write the code to get it to go over to being a building. And then, so it would be a pretty heavy configuration in other ways, not necessarily on the project side. It was more, they were more real estate focused, but they tied it with projects. And so it was that was a client for a restaurant, believe it or not. They were a fast food chain that we did that work for. But I was involved with that project. And so, yeah, it was just different configurations and what their focus is and where they feel that they want to spend their money, kind of thing,
Interesting.
Yep. So they all have their different focuses. Another client that is a government oriented client, they are more, I think, operations and maintenance with their capital projects implementation too. I mean, they were pretty heavy on both sides of the world, actually, on implementation, but they focused a lot on the FCA and project capital planning. And so they had a lot of configurations around that. And then they were tracking pipelines and things of that nature. So then that changed the whole location hierarchy of a different, it just was a huge build out in regards to the portfolio, believe it or not. So it just depends on where their focus needs to go. And yeah, I don't know. It's just, I can't say the capital projects realm was not configured, because it was, but it wasn't as, I think your guys's template stuff is just, that's the way, if I was a client, I would want to go that way, because with the contract and how cumbersome that can be to build that out, it just makes more sense to do the build you guys have. So,
Cool.
yeah. Well done, guys.
Well done by somebody. It wasn't me, that's for sure.
Oh, good.
Well, I know we're at time here. Can we get the recording of the video from you and the AI notes both, Stephanie?
Sure. Of course. I'll post them on the SFTP because I don't think it'll fit anywhere else, honestly. And I'll let you know when it's there.
Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for the time. This was helpful.
You're welcome. Bye,
See ya.
guys.